Indicated.
Yeah. Maybe we can indicate it in the chat if you want to sign up to speak. We are planning on about 3 minutes per person, just because there are plenty of people here and we want to be able to hear everybody. Let's see. So if you're joining us via Zoom, please indicate in the chat if you'd like to sign up to speak. And then we'll make sure that you get added to the speakers list in order. We are recording this meeting so that it can be shared later. Just so you know, what you say will be recorded for WORT posterity. Let's see. Well, I guess here we go. Esty Denur, are you with us? Esty, are you with us yet?
There she is.
There she is.
Okay.
To find her and unmute her.
She said yes.
We will find you and unmute you so that you can speak.
Supposed to be able to control their own mics.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Right, do we have to unmute? Can she unmute herself?
Are you able to unmute yourself, Esty?
Having problems with her IT right now, but she wants to speak.
Okay, we'll wait. There you are. Hello, Esty. Welcome.
Hi. I'm gonna put headphones in so I can hear you better. Can someone say something?
Yes.
Yes, we're
listening.
Ready?
Okay, yeah, that's a little better. So am I the first speaker?
Yes, you are, Esty. Welcome.
Okay, hi, thank you. Yeah, so I'm in Mexico, by the way. I don't know if you see the lovely stuff behind me, but I saw Joanne's email today, and I agree with a lot of what she said. I agree about the way it was done in secret and without consultation. And I think it was Dave Watts, maybe, who mentioned in his email that, yeah, that's how you deal with personnel stuff. But this is not just personnel stuff, right? This is a lot more than that. And the way it was done was not good, I believe. And at least there's at least one decision that I disagree with, or I have many questions about, and that is the decision to hire a consultant. I sent Grant a whole bunch of questions, which I would love for him to put out and respond to, because I didn't copy it. I just sent it in the form that you have given. And I would like to start with that, and then maybe say a few more things at some point. I'm sure there is a lot of people who want to talk, so I don't have to take the whole first half hour. But if Grant can at least do that, and then give me another opportunity later, I would appreciate that.
We each have about 3 minutes to speak. Do you want Grant to try to answer some of your questions now, or is there another way that we can answer the questions?
I'm not prepared to answer questions throughout this thing. I don't think any of the board members are. I think the idea is that people are going to say whatever they want, ask their questions, but it's
Grant, I hear you, but I don't understand you.
And Misty, if you're able to see the FAQ, I believe your questions were included in there. So we tried to answer all of the questions that we got ahead of time through the FAQ. But the way that we're structuring this is everyone's giving their comments, but we're not going to have an interactive back and forth Q&A with the board members right now.
Okay, so let me just put the questions as I remember them. Why did you all feel there's a need to hire a consultant? How long is the contract for? How much is the station paying for it? Since it's all in the context of saving money, right? So that's that's quite strange. Um, why was it done in a non-competitive way? What did you find in Molly that seemed to be the absolute right thing to where you didn't need to talk to anyone else? um, and then I thought what Joanne said was quite incisive. I think it may be a first step towards putting a director on the station and or a general manager, and to make that Molly. So all of these questions are very relevant, and I didn't really quite hear you, Grant. I might go and change to another device and see if I can hear better there. But if you said that this was sent earlier today, I had not had the chance to read it, so would still be appreciative. I mean, I think you said that we're not going to do back and forth, but then what are we going to do? We are just going to voice our concerns, and you're just going to sit there mutely, and then the meeting will be over, and presumably we all will be okay, or is that the plan? What's the plan?
Well, this is a listening session, so we're here to listen to each other.
Okay, so no answers then to all the questions that we've had.
Not all of them right now. However, many of them were addressed in the document that was sent out today.
Okay, that feels very undemocratic, but I mean, the whole thing has been feeling like that. So let's continue in the same vein.
Thank you, Esty. Next is Brian.
Okay. Well, first I want to start by thanking some people. I want to thank for holding this open session. I want to thank Tanya for providing the communication about the recent events that have occurred through the volunteers. I want to give a special thanks to Grant Foster, who's took a lot of time personally to walk with me through some of the financial documents and actions of the Finance Committee. And I also appreciate that for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part, the board has in general made an effort to have minutes and meeting videos available, and that's much better than it has been in the past. So I want to acknowledge all of that. As I see it, there are two major distinct issues. One of them has to do with the 2026 budget deliberations and the notice of volunteers about the station's financial situation. An alert similar to Tanya's email that was sent out to volunteers should have gone out no later than September 10th, 2025. That's the date when the Finance Committee recommended a $107,000 cut to the personnel expenses of the station. That's a red alert event for volunteers, and we should have gotten notice of that right then so that we could have weighed in at future Finance Committee meetings or at the board. So that was number one. Messaging to volunteers throughout the year, such as Susan's pledge drive emails that we all received about the station's financial situation, should have been more nuanced and should have included discussion of shortfalls in underwriting and event revenues and increases in healthcare costs, rather than blaming everything on the CPB cut. So the message the volunteers got throughout the year was, hey, we've got this big CPB cut, but then hooray, we solved it. And that was it. And then the next thing we know, staff are getting laid off. So there was a communication breakdown there. I am also distressed. I share some of Esty's concerns about the number of discussions that have taken place in closed session. Closed session is appropriate only for disciplinary or performance actions related to incumbents as employees. I've worked with the state open meetings law for many, many years, for over 20 years as a county planner. We worked with county committees for many years. That and legal discussions with lawyers are the only really appropriate times to go into closed session. You're talking about budgetary decisions, elimination of positions, new expenses of station funds. Those should take place in open session with minutes and full approval by the board. Similarly, decisions resulting from an appropriate closed session should have been made public at a board meeting. When you go into closed session to debate, you make a decision, you announce what the decision is publicly. There's been a lot of confusion about what the responsibility of the executive committee, the finance committee, and the board as a whole. I feel very strongly that all budget actions should be taken by a vote of the full board after a well-publicized public hearing open to all voting members of WRT. This is how every unit of local government operates. So there should be public hearings on the budget every year. The second major issue, I think, is the decision to hire a board consultant. Now, I know Molly really well. We're good friends. I've worked with her in the past. I admire her work. None of what I say has anything to do with Molly as an individual or as an employee. But any new decision to allocate funds to a new position, even a so-called casual employee, should have taken place in open session. An announcement to volunteers should have been made before consideration by the board, and the board debate should have been held, as I said, in public session, not in closed session. Ideally, there would have been an open hire or bid for proposals prior to hiring a consultant, also open for public scrutiny. And then finally, and this is something that should still happen here, I think there's still time to do this. The board consultant's roles, duties, responsibility, term of employment, and salary should be spelled out in writing in detail. That job description should clearly prohibit the consultant from taking over any responsibilities assigned to the staff collective or the board. And I would refer you to the collective bargaining agreement, which says that the staff collective is responsible for day-to-day operations at the station, and the bylaws, which say that the board may delegate its authority to any committee or individual director. So we want to make sure that whatever the consultant does, that it doesn't run afoul of those two particular restrictions.
Thank you, Brian.
So can I have a couple more things I'd like to say about going forward? Can I?
Please.
Yeah.
Can I please? So going forward, I would encourage the board to seek to meet the openness and transparency standards of Wisconsin's open meeting law. Even though I know WRT as a private entity is not legally bound by it. The Department of Justice puts out a really good Wisconsin open meetings law compliance guide, and I would really encourage that to be part of the training for future board members about to take a look at that. I think there should be a regular section of the volunteer announcement newsletter that Adrian sends out to the vol announce list, devoted to a summary of the board's recent actions and calling out things that may be of particular interest on the next agenda to the volunteers. There's been a lot of talk about the idea of unitary station manager. I've been a union steward for 22 years. I subscribe to what we call Dode's Law, which he was a union activist and former county board supervisor. And he was quoted as saying, all managers are evil. Some are less evil than others, but they're still evil. I have yet to be persuaded that that a station manager for WORT is a necessary evil. I do recognize that saddling a volunteer unpaid board with undesirable, burdensome, and time-consuming administrative work without compensation is a real problem. And so maybe there needs to be some adjustment in how some of those responsibilities are taken. But if we're going to go down that road, we really need to look at changes to the bylaws and possibly changes to the collective bargaining agreement to put guardrails about whatever that station manager would do to make sure that it protects employees' rights and volunteers' rights. And you only have to look at other Pacifica stations, WBAI in recent memory, and others to realize what the risks are, and WRT's own history in the 1990s. You realize what the risks are of ascribing too much power to a single individual in this type of organization. So those are my comments, and I can make written versions of these available to the board.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. Let's see who's next. Patrick. I'm not sure how I pronounce your last name. Oh, no, it's Arlene first. Hi, welcome.
I don't think I can say it any better than Brian did or that Joanne did in her email, because a lot of those are my same concerns. So I guess what I wanted to just point out was how most of my concerns are about how undemocratic it is and how WART is not living up to what we all want WART to be, which is not like some institution. We don't want it to be like some corporation. This listening session is very undemocratic, that we're not going to have a conversation, that you insist on us just talking at you and then somehow we're going to get feedback. When, how, we don't know. So I think it's not what the kind of meeting I was hoping was going to happen today. And I guess I wanted to point out what you all wrote. It's from WART in the Madison locally sourced November, December issue, where it said that WART intends to hold true to its ethos of collaboration and consensus. None of that happened with this. None of that happened with this. The staff, it says there's a consensus process where all voices are heard. Challenges are solved collaboratively. Though collaboration can be a messy process at times, it results in better thought out strategies. Y'all don't have to decide this on your own on the board if you're feeling overwhelmed by it. You have 400 volunteers here who all have lots of areas of expertise. Use us and ask. And this session, I'm very disappointed in that we're not going to have some feedback from y'all. You're just going to all sit up there and look at us. Not a good way to handle.
Thank you. All right, Patrick.
Is there another Patrick in the room?
Or online.
Oh, no, I don't believe I signed up.
It could be someone online. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, is it Patrick Seibel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Sorry, that was my mistake though.
Okay.
It's a bumpy road to a 50th anniversary. What else? I yield my time to others. And yes, I'd love to hear from the board. Yeah. Any type of statement you would please to make.
Next is Harry Richardson.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi.
I'm gonna read my things so that I think I'll make sure I get all my points.
Yes, please.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board for their time and say that I'm a longtime volunteer here. Good number of people here. We're all here because we care about the state.
Right.
And, this court. So, some of my questions have been answered by the email this afternoon from Grant Austin, which I really appreciate and actually should have gone out ideally a couple weeks ago. Maybe meet with me different. Real quick, Harry. So I still have a number of questions, however.
Yeah, Harry, Tom's trying to get your attention.
Yeah. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Or you could, or if you want, you could come a little closer. This is the speaker for the Zoom.
Okay.
Are you gonna hold it, right?
Speak up.
Okay.
I guess everybody should try to speak up, including the people at the board then, of the board. Okay, I still have a number of questions and hope the meeting can clarify them. If the board doesn't answer us today, we get some direct communication from the board in a timely manner. I'm still not clear why a decision was made by the board to lay off 2 longtime staffers rather than other possible decisions in consultation with staff. The most obvious alternative being a reduction of hours spread across the staff, which could result in enough savings to avoid a layoff of 2 longtime staff people. I'm also not clear why volunteers were brought in at this late date after a decision has been made rather than before the decision was made. Has the board considered additional pledge drives, perhaps one in December, and adding more pledge drives for 2026 as one way to offset the financial problems here? Can we have more clarification on Molly's position here, such as how long she's been hired for and how much we're paying her? This is an important question considering board's current fragile financial footing. Going forward, what assurances can the board provide that more layoffs are not in the offing? can we have more information on the role of the development director and that person's duties and responsibilities? And I would and
Someone else on there.
Mute the board. They need to mute everybody.
I would agree with my Ask Me comrade that there's no such thing as a good boss. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Bill. I've been a volunteer off and on here for about 8 or 9 years and a listener sponsor. And a lot of people have said, have expressed some of the concerns I have, Brian and Joanne and SD. So I just want to say that in my personal history, I've served on the board of a couple of different nonprofits, and including one which was perpetually financially unstable. And I realized the stress that causes for everybody involved. And I want to thank you for your work on the board, trying to do the best for WORT. That being said, I disagree with the way this decision was made. I wish when it was known that there were going to be additional deficits, that a meeting like this had been called at that point to say, let's face this together. So that's about all I have to say.
Joanne Powers.
Okay, well, most of what I've said, you've all read in my email that went around today. And of course, people have hit on some of the same concerns. One of my big concerns is that this meeting is happening now. It should have happened a month ago. There should have been 4 meetings before any of this capricious action took place. The entire way it's been done, behind closed doors and in secret, is antithetical to what the entire station stands for or claims to stand for. And I have a lot of concerns, you know, like I said in my lengthy diatribe here, about how it makes the station look, how it makes everything about the board look. I want to trust the board, but I can't trust the board because of everything the board has done. And that goes from the capricious firing of Doug and Sybil to the secret hiring, apparently about a month before it was announced, of a consultant with, you know, undefined duties. And I have a lot of concerns about how everything went down. I think everybody else is already kind of, you know, in a nice little feedback loop. They're like, oh, Joanne was right. And I'm like, oh, they're right. Just keep it going around in circles. So the main thing I'm concerned about is now the threat to the staff collective. If there has been any decision or attempts made to eliminate the staff collective, which I've heard there is on relatively good authority, this is something that never should have happened behind closed doors, and it bloody well better not be a decided item. I'm, you know, have my doubts that we can backtrack on some of what has already happened, but everything else going forward needs to be far fucking more democratic. I'm done.
So
oh, you can read my email if you want me to hear me ramble on for much.
Thank you.
Go ahead, so. You have a question?
Yes. Question/statement.
We do have a list of commenters already. So we are going through the list as in order as people signed up. We can add you to the list and call you when you're ready. when we've gotten through everybody.
That's fine.
Thank you. Jill.
Hi, I'm Gil Alstead. I've been a volunteer for a long time. I'm a current volunteer.
Talk louder.
I am a volunteer now, and I have been a volunteer for a long time.
What? That was a
Okay, can you hear me now? I can project. I do know how to project. Okay. Um, I also have served on boards before, so I recognize how I've served on this board before, and I know how difficult it is to manage things here. And I've served on other nonprofit boards as well. So I feel for you guys and what you've been trying to do. But I do agree, especially with pretty much everything Brian said, and that things should have been said earlier. I'm still not quite clear on the staffing decisions, whether they are basically final, whether Doug and Sybil have actually been laid off, or whether they were given some sort of notice so that they're still working for, that kind of thing would be interesting to know. I haven't seen that information. Sorry?
The culling happened on the 7th.
They were walked out on.
Okay.
No, they were laid off on the 7th.
No,
right. Okay. And I think that's really, really unfortunate. I guess Brian has pretty much said it all, but I guess I would say one thing about the concerns about the collective. I mean, having served on the board when I did several years ago, and I think we all know the role of the collective rather than a station manager has been an issue for decades. So it's not something new. I think everybody here should know that. And that there have been debates about whether or not the station can continue to operate effectively without a station manager and with the collective running and everything. And I really wish that I hear this from people's concerns and even Brian's, that there's no good bosses. But I think, you really have to look at the reality. If the collective is not working, it's not working. Okay. You got to figure out how to make it work. And that's up to the staff and the board to work with the staff. That's it.
Laura, are you with us? Laura Connect.
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
I'm Laura Goodconnect. I was on the board during the last for the last 3 years. I did not run again come June. And so I haven't been privy to a lot of what's gone on. I have had the same experience that most of you have had. I'm glad that I followed Gil, because I think Gil brought up some important a perspective about what it means to be a board member. The board members have a lot of responsibilities and really have very little power as far as the staff is concerned. I was on the personnel committee. I was in a lot of those closed door sessions. I helped negotiate the last contract with the union. We discussed all of these things, and we made public as much of it as we could. We're not only bound by state laws, we are also bound by the bylaws of the station and various other policies that the station has approved and past boards have approved. So there are a lot of constraints. I will admit that this came up awfully fast, and that's my major complaint about the entire process, is that it was too compressed. We should have time to air some of the problems that the station is facing, get those things so that comments can circulate. That I don't think that happened this time. I hope that we don't see the need, and by we I mean the board doesn't see the need for any more precipitous action in the near future. But I do trust the board. I've worked with a lot of these people, and I do trust them to make good decisions in the best interests of WORT. I don't think this has to be like a hostile takeover. I think we have to try to look at others' perspectives on this. Let's all try to function as a collective. Those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Laura.
And first of all, I want to say Brian stole my speech. Thank you very much. I want to thank Sybil and Doug for their service to WORT. Thank the board and all the volunteers, of course. In my 50 years of being affiliated with WORT, I've never run for the board, even though people have told me I should do it. And I said, no, it's a thankless task. And it is. And I totally understand. I have some questions well, of course, we all have questions about how everything was handled. You know, but I did speak with some board members and stuff. And you know, he said, well, you know, a lot of this stuff, a lot of the situation we were in is readily available in the notes. And if you came to the board meeting, well, after 50 years, I just said, I'm not going to any more board meetings. I mean, I could and I have been, all right, when we need to speak up. I'm a little concerned about how things were handled on the day that they were let go, because I could be wrong. And this is another thing that I would like is that you guys take notes, and then some of the major points that maybe you address them when the whole meeting's over. That would be nice. I think you could do that. I don't know if then it's going to turn into a free for all or whatever, but if you could address some of those questions, that would be nice after this meeting. That's how you want to do this. I understand though that they were initially promised that they would get their pay until the end of the year, and that they would also get, you know, their health until the end of the year. And then supposedly it was the board reneged on that. Okay, so they got that. All right, good. Then I'm corrected on that. I would also
We can't get the details of the separation agreement.
I understand.
Until or unless it is accepted.
Exactly. So, but maybe you can answer that question fully. But that's an important thing for me. Yeah. I also want to commend the WORT for 30 years. We've had a staff collective. The board, I mean, the staff is not responsible for our fiscal situation and financial situation. We should. And I am very concerned about going back to that station manager position because I was there when that happened. Whatever. Those are kind of my concerns, and of course, everything that Brian stole from me earlier.
Your team, okay?
Yeah. So I think that's all I wanted to say, really. So no, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Real quick, if you're speaking, I've had some requests to come up to the podium or at least to the front so people can hear you. People that are online can hear you.
Then the last person on our list, because I can't quite see the chat, is Keith Steffen. And then I would love it if people who signed up via the chat could be added to the list so we can call on them. So Keith, if you're here.
Yeah, I'm here. My name's Keith Steffen. I'm a longtime volunteer with Labor Radio for about 20 years. And I do have some serious questions about the lack of prior community discussion about these decisions and their profound impacts on the station and in particular the individuals who have been removed. Have we followed due process and the union contract? Have the staff been offered adequate severance compensation? How do these actions impact their retirement funds? How were these individuals selected rather than other staff? Do they have recourse? What form does that take? That's all.
Well, they're great questions, and I respect that you've asked them, and I understand that there's a lot that you want to know. Until or unless the severance agreements are completed, we can't talk about that. It's private information between the board and the staff. So we have to wait a little while longer.
Well, I have a question.
Do we have people to call on, Tom?
We have Zoe and Heidi.
Okay,
And staff too.
great. Zoe, would you like to join?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
First of all, I just want to say thank you to Brian, Gil, and Laura for sharing your insights. I really appreciate that. And I think, it's true, like managing a collective is hard work and the board members are not paid. And that is, something we have to acknowledge. I wonder, one of the things that is coming up for me, given how this was handled, is what sort of training is the board getting in terms of how it deals with the community of volunteers and how it handles these matters vis-a-vis the community of volunteers? Because I think it's worth looking at how this is going to improve in the future and how it can change. And frankly, I appreciate that that there are a lot of people who want to comment, but having this as a one-way meeting doesn't feel like a great segue to this whole situation, although I do appreciate all the time that Grant and others have put into answering the questions and sharing financial information. So thanks.
Thank you.
Heidi.
Heidi, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Heidi Olson Street with Psychoacoustics, and I want to thank everyone for their work and energy, and most especially Sybil and Doug. The way this went down, if you're surprised that everyone says it's suspicious, that says a lot about your surprisement, because this is not a good look for the station. And to have it timed right before all the anniversary stuff is so unhelpful. And I agree with everyone's concerns about how this went down. My focus is we need to also move forward. And was there a plan to move forward? Because this all seems so sudden and reactionary to something that if anyone could have been open about from the very beginning, it's highly likely we wouldn't be here right now. But mostly I just want to hear about what the plan was. And thank you.
And Shally, do you want to go first? Steph, go ahead, Steph.
Okay, thank you. Steph Stringer, I'm one of the hosts for Her Infinite Variety, a part of that collective. Sunday lineup of shows. We are often, we don't get to come into a lot of contact with paid staff because we're on the weekend, hosts that work on the weekend or even overnight. We are somewhat isolated. And so the first thing I want to acknowledge is complacency is our worst enemy. So we're already in an isolated role where we're not going to come into a lot of contact with paid staff or board members. And so that's definitely on us it's got a nice kick in the ass to be more on top of the notes that come out the month, the board meetings that happen. So I want to own that. I have sat on the board in past, a decade or more ago. And it is a hard job. I do not envy any of you who are in that role right now. But a couple things come to mind. In terms of when I use my DJ host name, I use my own my name. I don't have a pseudonym. And when we're talking to listeners and we're talking about donating money, and I'm using my own name, and I'm conveying that we need money because we're trying to keep the lights on, and we're trying to, and we have this CPB cut, and there's nothing else that we're putting out there. I'm feeling like I'm sending out information that's not accurate, and I probably am shorted on some really important tools that could actually even bring forth more money to help the station. So I do not, like all the others who've spoken and the wonderful emails that folks have already sent out. Joanne, I would encourage you to read that email out loud and get that on record, not just in writing via email, but on this board meeting record. It was well written and speaks to a lot of what I think people are speaking. But anyway, I worry knowing that Sybil and Doug are union members. Like, do they have financial recourse and does this further harm the station? If they were not given notice, if that was what I just heard, if I did not misunderstand what I heard, being on Zoom, they didn't do anything wrong, it sounds like, so why someone would be walked out of the building without notice, 2 weeks notice, severance, I don't know what you've got going on, and I get that that's an HR thing. And now I also feel bad for Molly, who is coming into now a climate that is going to be hostile regardless of what we wish to be true. But that's going to be for Molly and you board members to navigate, because this is the climate that you've set forth. And I think that's probably all I can say, but that hasn't already been said. But transparency is your best friend here, folks. In every case, people will join you if you are transparent, and you'll get valuable input. If we're saying to listeners a 30-mile radius that donate to us because we're not like any other mainstream radio station, I feel like I'm not saying the truth here. And that's, I might change my DJ name because I want to trust that what I'm saying at the guidance of the things that are put out to us is true. And by the way, where the question has been asked, do we have a board president? There has been no answer, but I didn't see his name, the board president, listed on the meeting. Okay, I'm done. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Molly.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you.
Can't hear you.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Sorry. I'll try to project. That's what we do, right? So I can't fit all of this into 3 minutes. And I certainly have a lot of thoughts and perspectives on the matter right now. And I probably do not agree with the folks, perhaps the majority in the room. So just to introduce myself very quickly, I've been a volunteer at WORT as a reporter and a music DJ. I've been a board member. I've been board secretary. I've been a member of the part-time staff, 2 positions. I've been a part of the full-time staff collective, and I've helped a lot of you, I hope. But no one owns the station, and that's what's cool about it, right? I want to express my appreciation for everybody in this room for taking time out of your day and night, and the board and our consultant and everybody who care deeply about this station, because we want it to exist when we're gone. We want it to be here when we're not. And I think that is the very difficult moment that we find ourselves. We all have the same desire for this place to grow, to evolve, to have the same opportunity that we were given. And sometimes that calls for tough decisions, right? We did not get into this because we want to fire anyone, right? No one wants to fire anyone. No one wants people who are good people to leave. But I also trust that the people who have signed up to do the job of the board, of the consultant, of the staff, to take a hard look at the numbers and to decide what is most and least critical to our operations right now are making the right decision. And most of us probably don't have the time to sit down and do that. But let's just be honest, I've been really busy, right? But I have taken some time to chat with some folks in this room. But we got involved because we wanted to make friends, or we wanted to be on the air, play cool music, right? Interview people. That's why we're here. And so I have seen this happen a number of times when there are unpopular decisions to be made and someone needs to make them. To give you a little context, I've heard about democracy and transparency. I am a journalist. I agree with all of that, obviously. However, when you're at work and you're on the board or you're on the staff and you see how decisions aren't made month after month after month after month, someone needs to make a decision in order for the organization to survive. And I think that's where we are. And I'm happy to give examples of the decisions that haven't been made, that have been put off. Someone asked about onboarding for board members. I asked about that too when I was on the board, and no one gave me anything. All right. When I was on staff, I asked about that. We've had consultants before. We had one earlier this year for the board. No one seemed to be upset about that, right? Because the ability of the staff to function was not good, right? And it's nothing against the personal staff. It's communication issues and accountability. And I think we all sort of secretly sometimes know that the staff as a collective is not always accountable, right? It just is, right?
Yeah.
There was one takeaway for the staff for that exercise, right? To fill out an accountability worksheet as a test. We pushed it off and pushed it off and pushed it off for months. And I hit my head against the wall. In the same way that on the board, I made an onboarding guide. And certain people, whom I will not mention, but they know who they are, didn't bother to even distribute, right? We need someone who is accountable. We need people who are willing to look into the details and do the very dirty work of going into a budget, right? And we should be thanking those people because we want to be on air, right? I want to go report about other people's budgets, but it really hurts to look at your own. And so I know we all love this place, and I love all the people in this room. I really do. But someone has to make a decision because we don't have infinite. And if there are concrete, specific proposals that folks have, I would love to see them. So thank you. It's good to see all of you. Sorry to be here under this, but thank you.
Okay.
Oh, my name is Steve, and I'm a listener and a donor, and I have listened to WORT since it started. And I think it's an extraordinarily important part of Madison. And I know nothing about what you're talking about at all. I walked into this and was completely surprised by the reliving of an event which is obviously traumatic to the organization and the people that are here. I think I agree with the woman who said, what I read in the paper was that we had a deficit. And we can only run at a deficit for so long. And I understand that because I work in a lot of organizations. So I'm interested in the future. what's being done to clear up the deficit and keep the radio on. I figure HR things, they have a way kind of taking on their own life, and they go through all their own steps and all the processes and everything that goes along with that, and you can't really touch it. We're going to see that in the White House. But I'd like to see I'd like to know the future, acknowledging the hurt that's in the past. It feels like there's alienation between the people behind the table and the people that this doesn't observe.
Which is wild, because all of us are at the station.
Yeah, it seems like we're all in the same room.
Most of us have been volunteers. Most of us have volunteers.
Sorry, could you speak up? I can't hear you.
Sure. It's kind of wild, Jeff, that it feels this way because most of us have been volunteers and supporters of the station, all of us, for a long time. Yes, Brian.
I know I already spoke, but I feel these last couple of comments have sort of mischaracterized what I've heard in that what you've heard, you had a lot of very specific concerns about communication and the timeliness of that communication. We heard a lot of concerns about how information was provided. I haven't heard anyone here express antipathy towards the individuals on the board. I haven't heard anyone here say that we're not all have the best interests of the station at heart. It wasn't until this moment that issue was even brought up. So I would really encourage everyone to look very carefully at what was actually said here and the concerns that were actually raised and the very specific suggestions that a number of people have made here, and not interpret that as an us versus them. We all want the station to succeed, and we all want it to be healthy in the future. So, I know it's, especially in this political environment, it's very tempting to have a sort of us versus them mentality, but that's not what's happening. And I want to be really clear. I certainly, in my comments, did not mean to disparage anybody on the, or any of the other volunteers or any of the staff. It was not my intention.
My name's Andy Moore. I'm the host and producer of the Friday 8 o'clock Buzz. And what is your name? Steve. Steve. Before Steve spoke, what I wanted to say was the only people that aren't here are the listeners. And listeners don't know what a collective is. But, they don't have time to read the minutes. They don't have time to watch the YouTube of the last meeting. So when I think of transparency, I think of the listeners. I don't think about anybody in this room. I think about the listeners and what are we telling them? And Steph, I thought, did a really good job talking about, some of us frankly felt like phonies trying to raise money, talking about the roof. And that hurts all of our credibility. All of our credibility in this room, who I don't care about as much as the listener. So I want to use the word transparency. I want to be journalistic about this. But I don't care about collectives either. I care about what we tell the listeners. I care about what the listeners know. I care about when we tell them. And so I really was encouraged by Steph Stringer's comments. And she said it in a really unselfish way. This isn't about on-air people either. It's about the listeners.
Falls into what was just being said. The comments that I got after the news came out about is, oh, we had such a great pledge drive. Oh, we were so successful. No one understood that there were other issues below that. They just thought we paid for everything. So why are we needing to let go of long-term employees? Nobody, that bottom part of, all the different issues that played into it, it was not known. And these were volunteers that were saying that, as well as listeners. There was not an understanding of why this is happening after we had such a successful pledge drive. And it really threw a lot of them for a loop. Why did this happen? What are you talking about? I don't get why I don't get why we just got all this money and we're still having issues that wasn't explained to them. And that comes in with the honesty and the openness is more information to them to let them know the true standing of where we are and what's going on.
Esty wanted to say something.
Thank you, Esty. Go ahead.
No, we're here.
Esty, would you like to speak? You may be on mute. And you are in Mexico. Maybe we have to wait for the satellite.
Can I say something while we're waiting?
Yes, please.
I just two things really quick. I resonate everybody's sentiments. Shelley, I thought you were very nice. Touched the whole thing. It really brought it together for me. My two things that I don't think were brought up is, I hear a lot of people just in mingling that they're against the station manager, and I know that's probably a small issue that we've got right now, but from every conversation I've had with staff members, it seems like that would almost be an embraced role. I can't speak for them, but I don't know if that's ever being said, that I don't think a little guidance or, an extra office manager, not even a staff manager, something isn't necessarily an evil for the staff. I don't think, especially at these times. And then the other thing I wanted to say was, I left the annual board meeting thinking everything was completely fine. That's where I think a lot of, not following up in July, August, and September, but like, how did we go from, it's fine, we've set this up, we've actually been preparing for this, we're ready, and all of a sudden, boom, it's like triple. Like, being blindsided like that really, I think, kind of throws that off. And then going with what Shelley says, that comes in, I've seen things takes everybody to be on board to push something through. So
right.
Movement is also positive.
Right. Esty, are you with us? Are you available?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There's not a whole lot I wanted to add. I did want to say that I too, having been myself on the board for 6 years and having served as the president, understand the difficulties that the board is facing right now and has been facing. I also know that Grant has put an awful lot of hours just looking at various things. So thank you for that. However, again, I think that the way it was done is very problematic. And I would like to encourage all of you to become transparent for the rest of the time. So I looked during, while listening, I looked at Grant's response to just my questions. And I just want to add 2 more questions. I understand because you're not being transparent, you're not going to respond to them today, but it says that the engagement is time limited. I would like to know how limited it is, what's the length of the contract.
You mean also want to know engagement?
Yes, engagement.
Okay. Thank you.
If that's the word you want to use.
Okay.
I also want to know if Molly will have power over staff and volunteers. It sounds like she will be in the station and acting as a general manager, or maybe I misunderstand, but I would like clarification on that question too. So this is all for right now. Thanks.
Go ahead.
The answer to Esty's question, I have to get on top of that, is no. She is a board consultant. She has no power over the staff. She is helping the staff, and so far, from everything we've heard, staff appreciates it, navigate the transition of losing 2 staff and reorganizing. but she has no power over the staff, none, zero.
Is there a written job description that could be made available?
There's a short written contract, and I don't want to speak for the board because that's not my job, but I think we can and should discuss either whether we can make the contract available to everybody or a version of it that is the job description. I happen to agree that that is appropriate.
Thank you.
Just quickly to add one more thing. Brian, can you send me your notes because I couldn't hear you and it seems like they were important.
I just mailed them to everyone that was on the notice of this meeting. So,
great, thank you. Thanks.
I assume I have access to that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so look on your Vol Announce email, Esty.
Okay, thanks. I'm limited here with what I have. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Have fun.
Yeah. They're in Mexico.
May I make a comment?
Yes, please, Carol.
Okay. I'm Carol Mosen. I'm one of the classical programmers for Música Antigua. I do Sunday mornings, so I almost never see staff unless it's a pledge drive. And I recently got involved in helping try and hire the development director because Susan has announced her retirement and put it back. And I haven't been involved in any WORT committee meetings for a couple of decades. And I just have to say that in times of change, it's better to be curious and give as much grace to everyone as possible. I've been very impressed coming in as a new person, how the do's and don'ts of being on a hiring committee were communicated to me and how we were prepped and how we worked together. And then when all this came about, which really knocked me flat too, just that, you know, oh, we're not only making up the deficit, but we've got a new roof. Oh no, things are really bad. Sorry. And I'm still struggling with the message when people come up to me who donate and say, so Carol, how's it going really? So I'm hoping that there will be a lot of guidance very soon. But I will say that digging into the answers that like the board has been making available and the links, although a lot of them are not available. A lot of it's considered, you know, you don't have access. But I did watch the financial committee's conversations, them going through the numbers, them discovering, oh, why is this way? This is different. How should I understand that? Was very, very helpful. I think we have some very talented and hardworking, committed people, you know, throughout all the roles that WORT people are in, you know, as listeners, as volunteers, as staff, as committee members. And I think that we have a lot of the right stuff. This has not been handled fantastically and it's horrible news, but I really want to encourage us all to do what we can to really get through this stronger and more sustainably, because what we had was not sustainable. So, thanks. Someone's got a hand raised.
Yes, please, go ahead.
My name is Paul Abramson.
Hi, Paul.
I speak, but after Andy's remark about the fact that the listeners are not involved, I would say that I am a listener. A year ago, I joined the Community Advisory Board as a path for myself to learn more about what goes on here. I have a background in nonprofit administration and broadcasting, and I'm generally curious about how organizations run. I've been president of a couple of nonprofit organizations, and it's a challenging enterprise to manage nonprofit businesses. I know that from personal experience, but I didn't have any understanding about how WORT works, except that I've been a listener supporter for a long time, and I know some of the people on the volunteer group. My assessment of what's going on here is what I've just said. This is a very difficult organization to understand. I'm a retired person, so maybe I've got a lot more time to read the attachments. And I'm curious about what they say so that I can make suggestions, which I've been doing pretty persistently for the past several months. This is a terrible situation. No one would question it. But if there is no concern by the critical commentary to make positive suggestions about how things could be better beyond the communications problem, which is massive, then there is no hope. If an administrative manager were in place, the communication would be more consistent. Relying entirely on volunteer board members to be able to master all of the communications tools that are required to disseminate the minutes and all the other proceedings of the board on a timely basis is impossible right now, as far as I can tell. And I have only been looking at this for 9 months. So, I just wanted to share that because there are people outside the walls of WORT that care about this place, that have some expertise to offer, and we should not deny them the opportunity to make those suggestions. And we should not assume that the listeners are not paying attention or that they don't know anything about it.
Dylan is asking to speak.
Dylan.
Hello, thank you. I'm glad so many people are at this meeting. I just think there's this larger conversation that is frankly overdue and that needed to happen a long time ago. And I just want to be mindful that a lot of the reasons why that conversation hasn't happened is exactly because of the response. There's been a lot of high ideals and a lot of hyperbolic rhetoric and no solutions. And we elected this board to run the station. And I've worked with dozens of volunteers, and they've come for a lot of different reasons, but they didn't sign up to sort out personnel issues or manage a tight budget or make long-range planning decisions for a large organization. And if they wanted to do that, they could. They could join a committee, attend a board meeting, or run for the board. So there's a lot of ways this could have gone down, and I think everyone would have liked it to happen a different way. But I think instead of blaming the board, I think we need to be reminded that this is democratic. We elected the board to make decisions and I'll just leave it there. I think we got to respect that. And if you don't like it, this is why we have a democratically elected board. We need more people involved, not less. But there's some very, very difficult decisions that many media organizations are making. And WORT has so many built-in advantages and I think can really thrive. But we have to deal with real issues and real struggles and real challenges. And I'm just very dismayed about hearing about the staff collective because it sounds so good on paper, but it hasn't worked. It just hasn't. And I think that's a large reason why everyone feels so in the dark. We need to empower this board to make the decisions, and we need to attend meetings and vote in elections because that's how it's supposed to work. And that is democratic. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Maggie wants to speak.
Maggie, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank the board for your time and for this forum and everyone who's been speaking tonight. I have so much to say about a lot of it, having been a former staff member for many years on the development team, and having worked in a lot of different nonprofits in Madison with lots of different models. And I mean, I do think that we are at we have for a long time, quite honestly, if I'm being totally honest, been at a point where we need to reimagine systems and structures at WORT, but I am having trouble seeing how centralizing responsibility will improve accountability inherently. I would very much like to see that exploration on a community level with community participation and collaboration. We'll never have consensus, but I think we can strive for collaboration. We have a lot of people involved in our community with a lot of different skills. And I am a bit concerned that deferring to one consultant and asking them to, go in and do this investigation, like how will I just would really like to hear from the board on like how the community will be a part of that exploration and a part of some of these solutions. And also if we have so many nonprofits in Madison and so many people with wonderful skills. There are professional organizations that do this kind of work. And so rather than hire somebody, who's a former staff member myself, I would have a really hard time being objective. I would bring a lot of baggage with me into a situation like that. So, has that been considered? What guardrails can we put in place to ensure that those biases are prioritized over others? And then also, just how was this person selected and by what qualifications? I think that's a lot of what's being called into question here and what I call into question as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Susan, please join us.
I understand that it might be hard to hear me. Let me know if I need to shout.
Good.
You're doing all right.
Okay. I wanted to speak on two things. One, I have had the time and I have taken the time to look over in depth all of the stuff that the board based their decisions on. And I mean decisions about our finances. I was unaware when I gave direction, and I do feel very bad about the direction that I gave that might have misled listeners or misled hosts during the last pledge drive. But having looked in detail at things, including the last couple of years and trajectories and stuff, I think that their conclusions are correct. I do not think there's any exaggeration that we are not in a crisis that is belayed by the fact that we have reserves, but understanding the concept of what reserves are used for and that they aren't used to prop up an organization that otherwise would be losing money every year. So I want to make that clear that I would encourage people to look through what you've been given. And I have double checked that against my numbers and asked to double check a bunch of things with the bookkeeper and other people. And the crisis is not manufactured. It's not some way that this board is trying to figure out how to get a station manager in there. So I just want to please look at the stuff that's there. It is complete. If you have any questions about it, I will try and answer them, but I think it's better to send those to the board and ask them if there's something that you don't understand in there. Zoe, I think that's a problem that has come up. I thank you for asking why weren't you aware of the situation before the pledge drive? Because a lot of things get hidden in a lot of numbers and stuff. And I have asked the board, and I think the board is working on a simplified financial dashboard that helps us understand things without having to read through very long documents and stuff. And we weren't doing good jobs on doing a trajectory of what is the effect of increasing the number of staff members, which has significantly increased in the time I've been here. And what is the effect with that kind of benefits that we offer, which are generous because the salary, let's face it, is not in many cases that generous. But if you keep going with that and you keep going with a 5% increase, which is and you keep going with, adding this and that, you're going to reach the point, as anyone that manages a business knows, where if you get too top heavy in the people that you're paying, no matter how much you fight to increase the income, you have to watch expenses. So I apologize, but I do want to Maggie, I don't know, maybe you had people who had a lot of experience. I'll stop answering as the thing, but I just think we're asking people who don't have degrees in finance, we're asking people who aren't financial experts to lead us. And I think that that is a place where I would love to see an office manager who has deep financial experience, that is with the station day to day, that isn't somebody, we went through 5 treasurers in a 2-year period. And that might help explain how we don't understand exactly what's happening with numbers when we keep asking so much of our volunteers. So anyway, that's the first thing. The second thing is, for all of you who say, oh, the collective is a great idea, just try and remember when you were in school and you were on a group project, how wonderful that was. I mean, I just say, if you have all of the top people, the go-getters on that group, boy, do you have a wonderful group and a great time. But if everyone there isn't on the same page as to how much they're putting into things and their ability to withstand feedback from other people, and not think that the collective is just supposed to be a rah-rah cheerleading group for, for us to put each other up, build each other up, but we actually have to hold each other responsible. And I haven't seen that. In 11 years, I have not seen the collective. It's very hard when you're doing things day by day and having to ask for those people to help you with stuff you're doing, to turn to them and say, I really think maybe we could do this better, and not have a real resentment of, that's my silo, that's my turf you're stepping on. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Doc,
I kind of.
you'll need to speak up.
Concrete. And I've heard the universal theme is there's not enough transparency. And I was glad to hear Andy bring up the listeners too. The listeners kind of have been forgotten in this. And just from my perspective, spending the last 3 years listening to endless hours of work programming as we archive it, time and again, I've run across old shows that are state of the station shows with, a round table of board members, staff, and listener call-ins. And they're really interesting shows to listen to. And they're, without exception, everybody is very candid. Nobody is trying to sugarcoat things, even though it's going out live over the air to all the listeners. And I just think that would be a great thing to revive, especially now. And I think it would be especially appropriate for the 50th year, kind of make this sort of a series, like, where are we at after 50 years? I think it would be just useful for everybody and interesting radio. So.
I think that's it. When you drop on the former staffer, I was there from 99 to 2021 as the volunteer and operating leader. And I do believe, I do believe that the staff collective, when I was here, worked. It was challenging, but it worked. And anyhow, I do have a question though, and that's about the finance committee. I was looking at the notes, and I appreciate the notes, but it just says members. It says finance committee. It's like, who are the people names? I would like to know who they are. And also, maybe I have the wrong information, but I'm under the impression that at one point, the finance committee used to include staff members and maybe volunteers, and now it's exclusively board members. And when did that change happen and why? I don't know if you can answer that quickly. I mean,
go ahead, Tony.
Served on the committee.
First of all, I got to go because I got to prepare for my show tomorrow.
Have a good time at the Harmony then.
Yeah. Got to come back in and
yeah, I want to say a couple things. And this is a whole different discussion in terms of what the structure of WRT's organization is going to be. There's some things that I know, and I know I've talked to a lot of people and throughout, and they're like, well, the staff had, you know, I really took to heart what Charlie was saying about trying to get shit done and who's going to make that decision. And you do want that. And that could be done with the staff collective appointing or assigning somebody that's like the fucking director, staff director. They're like, you're going to do that? Let's get that done. There's other ways of doing things. I think a lot of our fear right now, our trepidation, is because of the terrible experience we had with the last station manager in that whole process. And it took a lot of struggle from a lot of people, mostly a lot of the women and whatever, that really changed it. And I think since that time that we've really gotten strong, and fundraising overall has met the mark, but I think our content, you know, in all areas, the news department is one of the strongest in the world. Thank
you, Shelley.
I don't want to give them too much credit. But no, I mean, and I would hate to see that going. I mean, you know, how do they operate? They operate as a collective. In a way, they got a director, but it's kind of like he helps everybody who's involved in that stuff. And everybody works together as a team. They got one mission, and you got a person that's suitable for that position that just encourages everybody, and doesn't boss everybody around and tell them what to do, and he supports everything. So, and Charlie was the same way, and that's a good thing. I would be in favor of, yes, we should have a financial manager, but that financial manager is not the station manager, but that's somebody who knows money. I mean, to me, that's something worth paying for. So thank you very much. I've been around for 50 years. WORT will survive, right? This is not the worst thing that we've been through. And it's good. I guess every generation, every 30 years, I'll see you guys in 30 years. No. And, you know, as I look around the room, and I don't want to be generational or ageist or anything like that, but we need, I mean, as people are listening different, I had some young guests on my radio show the other day, some comedians, and I said, you guys ever listen to WORT? And they're like, no, even though we're promoting their show. So, you know, those are things that we need to look at. I'm sure the board is looking at that too, but thank you all. And I'll be thinking about you. Good night. Hey, join me. Help me with my show. Thanks. I'm working that script.
See you tomorrow, Tony.
All right.
Take care.
As I see some people are leaving, and that's fine. I just want to thank everybody on behalf of the board for being here. I think that it really shows how strong WRT is, that this many people care to take their time out on an evening, both online and in person. I also want to remind everyone that all of our board meetings are always open to the public. And this is not meant as a critique of anybody, but if you actually were coming to board meetings, this wouldn't have come as big a surprise. Some of the personnel moves may have, because for, I hope, obvious reasons, those things do need to be discussed in private. You may disagree, Brian, I can see your eyes, but there are just some things that can't be discussed publicly. But the financial situation that caused us to do what we did would have been much more clear. Could we have communicated it earlier in different ways? Absolutely. Not suggesting otherwise. I'm just encouraging for the future greater attendance at board meetings.
So for most of us,
I just want to, can I make a suggestion?
Brian's making a comment first, and then we'll come back to you, Zoe.
Great.
For most of us, we've lived through, in recent years, we've been through a period where the station has been financially healthy, and there have been very few controversies. And so we've gotten accustomed to being able to ignore the board. And it's in times of crisis that we need to start paying more attention. I feel the way about the board of directors of WRT the same way I feel about my federal government. I would like to be able to safely ignore it for months at a time. But your point is well taken. And as I said, I think in my initial comments, I really do appreciate the efforts that the boards have made to have minutes out timely, to have videos of those meetings available for those who can't attend live, and having remote options to view them as we see here. All of that I think is great and is a vast improvement over the way things used to operate. So yeah, I mean, you're right. We need to be, we as voting members of the WRT community need to be more vigilant and attentive, and that point is well taken. But sometimes we need a reminder of when we need to pay attention.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, are the notes sent out to the volunteer list?
They are
minutes?
posted on the website.
Okay, so I have never gone to look for the board meeting minutes, but in addition to posting them to the website, perhaps sending them out to the volunteer list is a way to make sure
supposed to
that
chat
Anyway,
or
thanks.
raise a hand.
Just one comment on that. The board did recently update our a policy that speaks to that, and we explicitly did make it our new policy that we do forward those out, both the meeting agendas as well as minutes with links to the video to the memberships through the Volanome. So there has been a couple missteps in the last few months. We lost a secretary, we've got an interim secretary, but it is a part of a newly updated policy that hadn't been touched since the late 90s.
Joanne, did you want to speak again?
I just wanted to comment on the point that I realize there are certain things in terms of personnel stuff, and Brian made this point way the fuck back to me, about how there are certain things people are not allowed to discuss as their personnel issues. But I feel when it comes to issues like creating or eliminating positions, that is right out of, everyone should know if the plan is to eliminate the music director on a station that's 70 or 80% music, and that's every other radio.
Did you guys technically get rid of the music director position, or did you technically get rid of Aaron's position?
It's the music director position.
But isn't Aaron Schultz being the music director?
Aaron has his own job, and he will be expanding and modifying his job description as we work together.
Okay, so that's what it's sorry to cut you off. Everybody keeps saying that. Like, I don't think the music director position.
It is.
Okay. No, that's what
Apparently that
Civil wants to speak.
They were not doing.
Yeah. Hello.
Just a moment, Sybil. Go for it.
Hello.
Hello, Sybil.
Hello. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Tom, like me, that does the music, represents, the music department and the programming committee. Yeah, me. I'm the music director. Remember? Just okay. Like, I thought you understood that was my job. But
yes.
Anyway,
I'm sorry, Sybil. I understand you were the music director and you were let go, but then we have somebody that's acting as the music director. So it doesn't.
They put those duties onto someone else.
Okay.
So, but I just want to say, like, it's in the past. We're moving forward. It's all going to be cool. I'm pretty sure that, it's just going to be fine. Now we'll see people at the birthday party. I think you're all very right. I'm so happy that so many people came here and got involved, and tell the people who lost too. I mean, it makes me feel better about the future of WORT, because I too am worried about people getting all these assignments, this extra work so fast. So, you all can deal with like those kinds of thoughts in the future. Please do get involved. And who knows, maybe I'll be running for the board sometime in the not too distant future, or maybe very distant. Anyway, I just want to say, all your concerns about how it happened are valid, because you've heard about the timeline of some of this stuff, but we did not actually know about this. I was not actually talked to about this until November 7th, which is 12 days ago. Before that, I had no idea that it was coming. or anything was happening to Doug or the events or that anyone was going to be hired. So that's a timeline, but we're moving on. And so, do with that what you will. I just think that the focus should be on the future and how things happen in the future. And, don't worry about us, but worry about how things happened, and yeah, I hope to see you all in the future. I hope I didn't go over 3 minutes. Thank you guys. Bye.
All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break so that we can set up for the board meeting. You are welcome to stay. Get something to eat, have a snack, use the bathroom. But we do have to get into the next points of business with the board meeting.
Before can I say something?
Absolutely.
To the extent that a lot of the comment, to the extent that a lot of the comments have been criticisms of lack of transparency and lack of information and poor systems control and a variety of things over the past couple of years, that's on me. And I apologize to everyone in the room. I apologize to the staff. I apologize to the board for my lack of leadership, my lack of judgment, and my inability to perform at the level that the station and the corporation demanded. And I'm glad that everyone is here, and I hope that I have not done too much lasting damage and that we can, as Sybil says, move forward. So thank you all for being here, and all I can say is I wish I'd done a better job. So.
Yes, Dean.
Listeners sponsor for double-digit years. Interrupted by 2 terms on the board 6 years apart. The last year I was on the board, I was the 5th of these treasurers that was a series of treasurers, which is the hardest job on the board. Finance committee is a bylaw defined committee that only board members can vote on it, but there are staff members that come with all the information and other people that come that are much more knowledgeable of how to put finance together. And then it's up to the treasurer to put a report together every year. And so every month to report to the board, usually through financial statements. And then you work with the staff to develop the budget for the next year. So that's how this gets put together, and why all of a sudden this year, with a little bit starting last year, the problem of holy shit, we're in bigger trouble than we thought. And then to get that thing, but the treasurer it's really, really hard job. As you know, to run for a board, and you should have some understanding of what a financial statement looks like. And especially if you're someone who knows how to do finances, then you can get on that finance committee and really be a big help. And you'd let things know, hopefully ahead of time, before it catches up. Sometimes if you don't know much about finance and you're on the finance committee and you get stuck, and all of a sudden, holy shit, oh, there were signs 6 months ago, but you didn't pick it up. So that's probably what happened. Stu's taking this on himself. I appreciate your comments, but also it's a shared responsibility of not communicating properly, not just the president. Anyone on the president runs the meeting, and the agenda's any board member can put something on the agenda. So the board at whole, if there's a communication breakdown, it's not all on one person or the staff. You all should be up there thinking you can do better. When I was on the board, I think, shit, I could do better at this, but you're volunteer, I was working a job, got a family, now I got to do this. And then you got to supervise the staff too, that no board ever does that. How the fuck are you supposed to do that? So it is really, really difficult to do this. If you want to be on this board and you've got some experience like you do, and then, for example, people on the CAB, there's 2 of them here. I used to be on it as a board member. The CAB committee was required by the CPB because you got the money. They required this thing. Money's gone. We don't need the CAB anymore. I suggest you make it a regular voting, and they couldn't vote. As a volunteer, you couldn't vote, but now I think you should make a a regular committee and let them vote, and they can run for office too, which maybe you. And so there's stuff that we could do as members and people that are concerned about this issue, but maybe getting on this board and trying to figure this out. Making sure the board, the staff is actually understand the 5 principles of how a collective is supposed to work and making sure that the collective is working right. That's the board responsibility to supervise that. So there's a lot of stuff that came up here that bothered me as now I'm just a listener. So there's a few listeners that showed up here. We're kind of tweeners. We're like, we pay attention to what's happening. We don't come and volunteer. So I might change that too. So there's a lot to feel good about going forward, airing this all out. And the problems that came up, it's not all on one person.
Thank you, Dean.
Yes. Not on me.
Yep, let's have a break.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
He's taking that with you.
Now, just for the record, there had been a suggestion that we have flip charts in a discussion.
And breakout.
And breakout rooms. We just never can.
I just wanted to say, I know you just stepped down. I feel like I put that organization in a bad way. I feel the same way that the threat. I understand.
Thank you, Carlos. Oh, thank you. It's a detail. I mean, thank you.
It wouldn't be a radio station if we weren't tripping over wires, right?
That's right.
Thank you.
I know it's
Right, or they get
well, I'm glad that you're able and willing. I was watching the board meeting. I just wanted to thank you for stepping up and being a secretary. Thank you. I mean,
Thank you. As Board Vice President, Tanya Graham calling the meeting to order. Thank you for being here, all of us. So we have completed our first listening session. It looks like the second item on our agenda is disclosures and recusals. I am not informed about what that item is today.
That's the opportunity for any board members to disclose any potential conflicts of interest and recuse themselves on items that they would have a conflict of interest. So the budget has been an item where the staff rep has disclosed that and recused themselves from the discussion.
Great, thank you. Anyone have any disclosures or recusals that they would like to offer?
Can have any seat.
Not that I'm aware of.
All right.
I think Tom acknowledged the recusal on the budget.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll log in virtually.
Okay. Next item is the agenda. Do we have any input on the agenda as it stands? Do we want to adopt it as it is?
I'll move to adopt.
And I'll second.
Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is approval of our October 2025 minutes.
I just added the link there. I apologize that wasn't linked previously, but I was able to find it and link it there.
Right. It was
share them out previously.
It was previously available, but not linked in the agenda. Does anyone have any changes to the October minutes they would like to share? We have a motion to approve the October minutes.
I move to approve the October minutes.
I second.
Thank you. Next item of business is our board elections. We currently have no president of our board, and we currently are working with our interim secretary, Carlos. So we are looking for, yes, Sue.
Moving for nominations.
Yes.
Nominate Grant Foster, city president.
We have a nomination for Grant Foster to serve as president. Do we have any second?
I second the nomination.
Thank you. So do we have
call for further nominations?
Do we have a call? Do we have further nominations from any board members present for president? All right. So let's take a vote. All in favor?
Move a grant to cast unanimous ballot for Grant Foster to serve as president. I second.
I
Bill?
Anyone else?
Oh, I am supportive of that proposal, voting in the affirmative.
Are we all in favor?
Hi, this is Julia. I'd like to abstain from voting, please.
Thank you, Julia.
I would also like to abstain. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Maybe do a roll call just to
Yeah.
make their choosing.
Yep. Terry.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
Grant. I'm in favor.
Me too.
Carlos. Tom.
Aye.
Thank you.
Phil.
Yeah, Phil has already voted. Grant, you are now president of the WRT Board of Directors. Would you like to continue?
Take over chairing the meeting, I can do that. That also creates a vacancy in the treasurer role. If there's no objections, I would ask for nominations for the role of treasurer.
I have stated that I am willing to serve as treasurer.
The nomination for Tanya Graham as treasurer for WORT. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations for treasurer? We'll hold a vote for Tanya Graham for the role of treasurer. Let's try. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Congratulations, Tanya.
Thank you.
That creates a vacancy in the role of vice president. Stu?
Nominate Carlos Davalos to serve as vice president.
A nomination for Carlos Davalos for vice president. Any other nominations for vice president? Seeing none, I'll close the nominations and we will put the nomination of Carlos to a vote. All those in favor of Carlos for vice president of the WORT board, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Carlos.
Right.
And we also have a vacancy in the seat of secretary. Do the round robin. Any nominations for the position of secretary?
I nominate Phil Ryan.
A nomination for Phil Ryan. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, on the nomination of Phil Ryan for secretary of the WORT board, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, Phil. Thank you all for that. That'll move us to communications and reports. We had a lot of communications from the public in terms of our forum that was shared with the board. We heard a lot of communications this evening as well. In terms of committee work group reports, we've linked to the reports that are available. There was a confidential report from Personnel Committee. And Jeff, I think you had one item you wanted to check in with the board on.
You want to do that now?
Yeah.
Okay. So the of utmost importance is hiring a development director. Now, it is on pause because we are still waiting for the collective to respond about whether or not we can have an MOU to the collective bargaining agreement that will allow us to increase that salary to up to $65,000. I didn't put a deadline on my communication to Nate Rasmussen. Usually he moves pretty quickly. I also know he took a maybe off this week,
Yep.
if I recall correctly. So I think probably on Monday I will follow up with him. But in the meantime, because I want to get as ready as possible to move this as quickly as possible for obvious reasons, we have a vacancy on the hiring committee. Now, this also assumes when I say we have meaning one vacancy, that what Tanya has reported, and I actually would like you to reconfirm this when you have a chance, that everyone else who is on the hiring committee for, we'll just call it loosely Susan's replacement.
The next role.
Right. Had agreed to stay on. But it's been some time, so let's confirm that. But at a minimum, because Nicole was on that committee, she's no longer on the board, and we need to have, per our hiring policies, 2 board members. In addition, Tanya, who had led that committee, has expressed the desire not to lead that committee.
Certainly the treasurer.
No, fair enough. This is not, I'm just laying out the whole scenario. So if somebody volunteers, they know what we're coming. I'm not sure, and I haven't looked, if anybody knows for sure at our policies, whether the committee has to be led by a board member. I'm not sure that it does. There are some built-in advantages since the ultimate hire is made by the board, but I'm not sure that's unsurmountable. Anyway, so I'm putting it out there. Is anybody interested in serving on what is likely to be called the development director? We haven't finalized the job description. I know that Molly's working on that with input from Susan. So anybody willing? I know
You were going to.
Yeah. Well, Phil and I had both talked about it, our concern at our personnel committee. And the reason why I'm bringing it up to the whole board is that both Phil and I, well, Phil for obvious reasons, because he's always operating remote from West Virginia, I believe. I'm going to be gone for 2 months, starting around January 10th till not quite March 10th. I could be involved remotely, whether it makes sense to lead a process that includes interviews remotely. I don't love the idea, to be honest. And I'm not even talking about for me, I'm talking about for the station. And so that's, otherwise, Terry, I would frankly gladly do it. Stu?
What is the time frame?
Well, the time frame is we get in no certain order, A and B come whenever they come, a finalized job description that we as the board, which if it happens fast enough, could be the executive committee approves, because we have to have that in order to post the position. And B, we get it posted as quickly as possible. So, I would love it if this could happen next week.
It's not. Tell me what realistically.
Realistically, it depends on when those 2 things happen, Stu, and I'm not in control of either of those things. So I can't It's as soon as possible, but two important things have to happen first. So, I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult. It's just,
I mean, because I could do it, I can't do it if it involves meetings in December, because I'm not going to be in the country. So, I mean, if I knew that the interviews were going to be in January and February, I could do it. I can't do it if they're going to be interviews in December.
here's what that makes me think of, Stu, and I'm just thinking out loud. How about if you and I kind of team up on this so that while you're gone in December, for the part of the hiring committee that might involve making sure we get the job posted, figuring out the timeline. We do have, I'll be honest, it's not the greatest time to be posting Christmas, New Year's, etc. That I will serve on the hiring committee to make sure what I'll call is the logistics happen. And then when I need to leave, you'll step in, because hopefully, if all goes well, the interviews are happening while I'm gone and you're back.
Tag team hiring.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable?
We can't switch in the middle of the interviews. We have to.
Right.
No.
That's fine.
Not in the minute. No. I 100% agree. We don't want somebody, different people in on the interviews.
We'll split the responsibilities. You do phase A, I'll do phase B.
All right.
Fine.
So I will, and I don't think this takes a vote. I will.
Who makes appointments?
The board makes the appointments on the hiring committee, I believe.
Okay.
So we could put it as a motion right now and approve it.
I move to appoint Jeff Spitzer-Resnick to the hiring committee for the new development director. And when Jeff is gone, Stu will fill in. And when Stu is gone, Jeff will fill in. Therefore, we have coverage.
Anyone second?
Yeah, I second.
Any discussion on the motion?
What's your expectation on the job description? When that would be? Yeah.
I think it requires a lot more conversation. Board. I can't give you an answer right here, right now.
There's so little chance of there being an interview before February in my mind, because they barely got anybody to apply the first round. Well, it's because the pay was the pay comes up, it's still now. So,
I think this is planned as an agenda item on the upcoming personnel committee meeting on December 2nd. So I think we'll get some update there about progress, and personnel committee will have a good opportunity to weigh in on the development of the position description at that time.
Who was the second?
Talk before that.
Terry.
Thank you, Phil.
Oh.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, is there any objection to approving the motion? Hearing none, that's approved. Congratulations. Any other questions or comments on the committee work group reports? Seeing none, the staff reports, again, this has kind of been an open question about whether they should be linked here or not. I think at this point, at least some staff have suggested that their reports should not be on the public agenda. So those were shared with board members. Are there any questions or discussion of any of the items on the staff reports? Seeing none. Agenda item 7 is for petitions for new arrivals to be added to the active voter list. So this is for our upcoming special election. We do have an attachment there that lists the names of the petitions that we've received so far, as well as their rationale for being included, and then a recommendation from staff members. So on the list, we have Morgan Davies, which Nate has said yes, should be included. We have a Linda R, no staff knew about, so I'm assuming the recommendation is a no on that one. Tamra Says one pledge drive probably doesn't qualify. Dragon or Dragon might not meet annual meeting criteria. Aisha Malik, Nate says yes. Patrick Seibold, Nate says yes. Paul Abramson, Adrian says maybe, question mark. Does some other things besides cab. And Janine Ramsey, Nate says yes.
I think Nate has something.
I just to clarify with the Dragon thing, the bylaws do say that it has to be 5 hours and 3 months prior to the annual meeting, which I think is mostly describing elections in the annual meeting. Dragon would not fit that criteria, but would fit 5 hours in the previous 3 months to now. I'm thinking like the spirit of the bylaws, I would recommend yes, but.
Who is that? Dragon.
Dragon.
Okay. Got it.
So any discussion or motions on this item?
I mean, the text of the bylaws says one thing, but Nate is right that the spirit of the bylaws argues for a different result.
And I would encourage us to be over-inclusive rather than under-inclusive. I don't see the harm in someone who is, actually volunteering and wants to participate in the election, in allowing them to do that. I mean, what is the downside?
So maybe we put on our agenda for bylaws amendments a conditional clause that accounts for that going forward.
For special elections, that it applies the 3 months
Prior to just make
to any election.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I think we talked a little bit at elections committee, but I think there's a good opportunity to review our policy, the language in the bylaws, as well as there's some language in chapter 181 that we probably need to review as well. So okay. I think elections can do a little bit of work with that once the special election is done, but policy and bylaws probably we'll want to enlist the help of policy and bylaws to help look at some potential edits.
Dueling jurisdiction. Okay.
So as I see it then, the recommendations from staff would include Morgan, Dragan, Aisha, Patrick, Janine, and then there's still a question mark for Paul Abramson.
I would vote for connected. He's done a lot of something, spoke best tonight, seemed very passionate. So again, spirit of inclusion, I think.
I second that.
I agree.
Does anyone want to move the?
So move.
So we're moving acceptance of the petitions for Morgan, Dragan, Aisha, Patrick, Paul, and Janine. Any further discussion on that?
I bet we get a bigger turnout at next annual meeting than we did last.
We keep it up for sure.
Any second?
I think we did have. Who was second on that?
I don't know if we did.
Was there a second on that
Who
motion?
moved? No second yet. I second.
Tanya seconds. And seeing no further discussion, are there any objections on the motion? Seeing none, that passes. That brings us to our...
One question.
Yes.
Do you need me to reflect the people added to the voter rolls in the minutes, or...
Yes.
Is that just going to be, does anybody have a list of those names, or has the list been updated?
It's in the agenda, Phil, under 7A.
And so it's everybody on that list except for Linda and Tamra. The second and third people listed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And do we this is just a process question, because honestly, this is the first time I'm seeing this whole concept of petitioning. Do we have a process for communicating back to these people? Like yay or nay?
We will check the voters, and then when the ballots go out, they will just automatically get one.
Okay, but the two people who we're saying no to, do we respond to them?
One responded yes. So I'm not sure it could have been.
Luke. I suppose we can respond back. I'll talk to Eve.
Okay.
She probably knows who they are.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to, the fact that somebody actually took the time to petition, at least we owe them a courtesy of a response.
Very good. That'll bring us to agenda item number 8, the 2026 budget. I've included the budget process and timeline. This is the same document we've been looking at, updated as we go along. So we are at our November meeting. As we see on the agenda, we'll be discussing the budget. It does have a possible approval of the budget. I believe that the board is desiring to not take any decisions tonight. But it would be good to review that. I've included in the WORT 2026 budget spreadsheet. This essentially has the different budgets that the different includes the 2025 budget sort of as a starting point. It includes the forecast that we had been working off of, which I've renamed the 2025 forecast October. That's column C. I've added a new column, which is 2025 forecast November, which updates just a couple things. The primary, really the only updates are in the individual donation, the contributions individual category. So we had a very successful pledge drive due to a lot of hard work. And so our updated forecast for that is now 305,750 compared to the previous number of 250,000. All of these numbers, by the way, I've reviewed with these are all essentially coming from Susan, and they incorporate the pledge drive results. They also incorporate a number of recent, somewhat significant major contributions. So some of the numbers are very similar. Our monthly donations are up a bit as well, partly through the pledge drive. Our IRAs have gone up significantly, almost doubled, due to some unexpected IRA distributions. Memorials also up significantly. We've had some recent.
That's like what comes in wills from a will.
Yep, correct. Bequests and memorials. More funds coming in and expected to come in on the major donors category as well. That brings our projections up an incredible amount, or $180,000 above what our forecast was just a month ago. So that's all been updated there. I believe those are the only updates in the forecast column. Yes.
I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to make sure I understand it. I know I'm kind of sliding to the right, but I see blanks for IRA distributions to memorials, but a much larger number for major donors. Is there I'm assuming that you were including those two IRA distributions memorials into major donors. Is that correct?
Yep.
And is there any particular reason why we don't want to continue to track those two items, which I think are somewhat distinguishable and maybe worth knowing?
Yeah. So this is really from Susan. We didn't used to separate those out. She asked for them to be separated out at some point. Since that time, she now has a way to track those in the, I think it's the Civi platform. And so we actually will continue to track those differences, and we can continue to report on them. The recommendation is to just have them in the budget line, have them consolidated into one line.
Okay, so as long as, and I'm just speaking as a board member, not on the finance committee, and maybe it's just in notes, because I'm certainly interested to see whether or not those two numbers are going up and down over the years, or however, or staying flat. And if it's in notes, I don't really care. It doesn't really affect the bottom line in any way. But I think more detail is actually more helpful than less helpful.
Yeah, I agree. And Susan also shared with me, she compiled together all of the category numbers from the past, I think it was 10 years. I think I shared out with you all a compilation of that. So we will actually continue to track that, but it's even more detailed than what you'll see here. So essentially what I would expect is that Finance Committee is looking at the detailed view.
Okay.
But what's recorded in QuickBooks will be in one category.
Okay.
Susan, if you're still on, I don't know if she is. Can you see?
I don't think so.
Okay. Stu?
I want to ask a question that I think many people who are here the past couple of hours would ask. If our income is $183,000, $182,000 more than what we thought it was going to be in October, were the layoffs necessary, and were the layoffs necessary?
Yeah, I think as we go through the rest of the columns, kind of looking at our 2026 proposed budget, that will somewhat answer itself, but I think we can kind of get into more details.
In my mind, I differentiate between the elimination of the positions in the 26 budget and the layoffs in the 25 budget. So if we'll address it, we'll address it.
Yeah, well, we could flip over if you want to the projected net assets tab. So that's on the bottom, the next tab over. So this has been updated with that new figure. So you can see the significant jump. So again, just a month ago, our projections had us coming in around 40,000 under budget. And so we were having this continued decline. The income that came in through individual contributions, I had a pretty lengthy discussion with Susan about this, and we looked at those historic numbers. She feels very certain that we should not be expecting those same numbers next year for a variety of reasons. On the pledge drive specifically, I think we're very hopeful that we can continue the momentum, bring in as much as we can. What we've seen in years past, when we have really big years, often the years after that, we see a decent decline. She's also noticed a decline in kind of major election years as people tend to spend their money on political contributions and pull back a little bit on what they're giving to WORT. And then the thing that really bumped us up this year were these unexpected bequests and IRA donations that I think no one is expecting that they will see the same things next year. So I think we need to treat these recent things as a gift, as a really great thing in this moment. But they as you'll see later, we have updated our projections for next year slightly based on some of those numbers. But I think the recommendation is to be cautious and to not say, oh, well, we made this much money last year, let's just put that in next year's budget. So the cuts are necessary to keep a balanced budget for next year.
But also, there was the impact due to, and I'm just going to say it because and maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to say it, due to the severance offered, and I know it hasn't been finalized yet, means that there was no savings in the 2025 budget for those layoffs. So it's not a matter of we did the layoffs in order to save money in 2025.
So then the columns E, F, and G. So E is, again, this was the staff proposed budget that sort of started things off.
Are you back then on the 22?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I went back to the 2026 budget sheet. Yeah. So looking at column E, that's the existing 2026 staff proposed budget that we had been looking at since kind of early September. Column F is the budget that was adopted by the Finance Committee and sent to the board. G is during our budget deliberations in October, including the closed session personnel deliberations. And then H is what I sent out earlier this week, which includes just a few updates from that October budget. So I'll call those out specifically in the contributions individual. So again, having received all of the historic detailed information from Susan, I talked with her and we looked through and reassessed what she had been proposing for next year based on all of that data. And you'll see a few changes in that. So direct mail, we had been budgeting 90,000 for that. We we're only looking at bringing in about 75,000 this year, and really felt that 90,000 was a little too optimistic there. So that one's brought down a bit. Pledge drives, we've bumped up just slightly. We spent a lot of time talking about that. She said that, we could put 240 in there versus 230, but at some point you're just kind of guessing. But she felt very confident with the 230 number. I think she's also rightly concerned that having a new individual who's never done pledge drives before, I don't think we should expect the world from that person in their first go around. Auto gives, we did increase based on what we now have. Those you can pretty much count on.
That's the evergreen?
That's the evergreen, correct. Again, as Jeff pointed out, the IRAs and the memorials are all consolidated in the future budget with the major donors. And so that one we really did make a significant increase there. I think Susan's done a lot of work cultivating relationships on that front, and it's going to be a really important area of focus for the new development director. But I think we both agree that there are good opportunities there, and so it is a little bit more aggressive of a number than we had been looking at before.
Can I just, although it's more aggressive, you had 120, now it's 200, it's still less than our forecast for this year.
Correct.
So what is the explanation for that?
The explanation for that is that the forecast for this year includes those kind of unexpected memorials in particular, as well as the much higher than normal IRA distributions, as well as the restricted funds that she got for the roof this year.
And not expecting that to continue.
Correct.
Okay.
I think, we should, shoot for the stars on it.
Sure, of course. We always want to raise as much as we can. I understand. It's a planning. I just wanted to understand the rationale for the number.
And I think on that one as well, just like it will be difficult for the new person to kind of come up to speed on the pledge drives, a lot of people with development experience don't have experience on pledge drives. Major donors may or may not be an area of particular skill for this new person, but it does take a fair amount of time to kind of reestablish those relationships, which are pretty key to the major donor side.
I believe the major donor line is substantially under what it will be.
I hope you are correct, and I think we should do everything we can to
do you have, other than just a good hunch, Stu, do you have reasons? Yes. Because you're aware of some donations that okay. So I think that's important to know. I mean, if there's more than just prognostication, which
it's nothing I can talk about publicly, but at some point we will be amending the budget, I believe, to
between now and December.
I don't know the timing, but
okay. So I'll just say, I mean, that is a reason to certainly wait till December to pass the budget. Obviously, stuff happens all the time in the future, and if we bring in more, and everybody will just celebrate. But if it becomes clear that we have a hard, someone has just decided we're writing a $50,000 check that we didn't know was coming, then we should, and if that happens before the required adoption of the budget in December, let's make sure we include it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other items there, general donations, just turned down a little bit based on what we've actually been seeing this year, and donations, car donations as well. Those have not been as strong as we had previously budgeted for, and overall that brings a new proposed individual contributions total of $795,000, which is less than what our forecast for this year is, but greater than what we had previously proposed for this category for next year. So about $62,000 more than we had previously budgeted for 2026.
Can I ask a question about the next line? Underwriting?
Underwriting, yes.
Yeah. So I'm assuming, but I could be wrong, that is going to come under the new development or development director's job, correct? And are we just keeping that number flat because it's uncertain how well that person will do on that?
Yeah, I think, this is another area that Susan gave a lot of input on. I think her recommendation is that it should not be an area of focus and energy for the new person. And that the thought is that we can hopefully essentially maintain kind of what we have with minimal effort, hopefully getting some support from some additional staff to kind of keep those things going. And maybe in the future, the new person will have some ideas around underwriting, but for 2026, really just kind of keeping a flat budget in that regard. Everything else, so again, that brings our total proposed income up about $72,000 compared to what we were looking at last month. And there were just, I think, 2 other adjustments.
I want to make one other piece of input while we're still on the income side.
Sure.
Although this is kind of an income and eventually expense. I believe that we should do ward stock or some version of it. It doesn't have to be in May. I understand the reasons why doing it in May could be challenging, getting the liquor license on time, etc. And I don't know what the right number is. We could just look at historic numbers. But I think from a budget point of view, and this I think we've always thought of this as a money-making event, and it hasn't been a money-making event. And I think that was a mistake. I think it should be thought of as primarily as an outreach event.
Yep. Celebration.
But from a budget point of view, I think we as a board should budget it as budget neutral. Okay. I don't think we should plan to lose money on it. Okay. And so that, I think, a budget is a planning document. And so I would like us to put an equal amount. I don't know what the right number is because I'm not seeing historic numbers of what we spent on ward stock in the past and what we brought in ward stock. But I would like to see us put, so we at least have the placeholder, the identical number, and if it's 30,000, it's 30,000, whatever it is, in income and in expense under, and if we don't want to call it ward stock, we just call it events. I am not in favor of continually doing these small little events that I actually don't think are the greatest outreach and generally lose money on.
So the problem with what you want, the problem with getting the numbers you want is that Doug has never accounted for his staff time in the budget, analyzing the income and expenses of ward stock. So we do not know what the staff time is, and we do not know how much we would have to pay an independent person to run the event. I don't disagree with the importance of the event, but in terms of budgeting it, we don't have the data.
Understood. As far as Doug's time, we're not hiring specifically to replace Doug's position. You are correct that staff time will have some amount will have to be put in. I would like to believe that if we reimagine this, one thing Doug was not good at was building a team of volunteers. And I know I've heard Adrian talk in the past about, bringing volunteers into events, into fund development at some level. Obviously not at a professional level, but I think if we're really just talking about one event, and if we think maybe it's a fall event or later in the summer or whatever, so we have more time, we have a development director on board, et cetera. And we may just be guessing at a number. My point is to keep it budget neutral, that the goal of the budget is that it's budget neutral. How we end up pulling it up, maybe it's much smaller. And maybe it's not an apart. Maybe we get back to the block party idea. Condo dwellers be damned. So those are my thoughts.
I just want to piggyback. I agree with you, Jeff. I do think it can make money. I don't know why it wouldn't make money. But there is an events meeting on Friday, and I was on the events committee. I'm staying on the events committee. I hope to be a big part in trying to see something happen, whether it's Woodstock or called something different when it happens. And I do think that it's clear that the desire is for it to be there for people to have that event and even other events. So I don't agree that it can't make money. And I've been looking through the documents and I don't know where they are on any expenses involved with previous Woodstocks. I can't find it. Maybe it's hidden from us or something, but I do think it can happen. But that's, I think let's have the events committee put something together and a proposal before we get too deep into it. But I think it could make money, even if it's 10,000. So
Tom?
I'll just throw in there from a staff time perspective, it wasn't done. We didn't put in tons of hours.
Yeah, it's a huge time.
Get the tents set up, get the CDs there for sale, all that's the volunteers coordinated to be there for setup or tear down or trash cleanup for everything.
It needs to be volunteer. It doesn't need to be staff. It really needs to be a more almost.
Staff has to coordinate.
They don't have to. Is that a rule? I mean, they don't have to. I mean, a lot of fests get done by all volunteer committees, and they have no structure about them for the rest of the year. The Monona Fireworks Festival is an example. I mean, it can be done. I mean, and there's clearly a desire for it. So I think let's let the events committee meet and hopefully bring something back to this group and table it. It's a big thing. It's an important thing.
In my point for the budget, and I don't even really care what the number is at this point, that we by zeroing it out, it kind of disappears. And I don't want to see that decision made through our budget. And if we do it as budget neutral, so it doesn't affect the bottom line, and that's the clear message sent to whether it's all volunteers or all volunteers with some staff help, which I suspect there will be some staff help. And I am sensitive, Tom, I do get it, Woodstock, and maybe Woodstock was just too big. Maybe that was part of the problem, even though it was a lot of fun.
Because along with that is electrical generator rentals,
right?
Stage rentals,
and those prices kept going up and up and up. And maybe it was just too damn big. But I think a way of getting the work community together to have fun, and celebrate WRT at the same time is to just lose that completely for a year is, I think, a mistake.
Well, if we're going to keep it, we'll definitely keep the name. That's a great name.
I don't necessarily agree with you.
Twist on this one.
I don't necessarily. It's very niche
for a certain audience.
It's generate.
Terry, I mean, I'll just say I think I appreciate your suggestion. I do think in general this is a good moment for us to communicate with volunteers that they should take a lead around events. I think there should be discussion, there should be a lot of ideas, etc. And I think, coming back with a proposal makes a lot of sense to me. I think if you can help that group really zero in on a couple of things, really understanding what a potential budget would look like, what if they think is needed, getting some realistic numbers around revenues. But I think this question of staff time is really, really critical. We've made some significant cuts in our staffing, and everybody is covering right now. And I know Molly's been working with them really closely, and I think it was an important relief for them, at least in the short term, to not feel like there's an expectation to deliver on an event like Woodstock. So I think if the events committee can just be very thoughtful about that and be very realistic and get some agreements from staff, especially, I think would help the proposal be better received by the board too.
Throw one more thing. There's a November 17th deadline for the alcohol license is done. Also, I don't remember the exact number. There's a certain number of months that we have to apply for liability insurance, which is a separate rider on our insurance.
It's usually 6.
Which has to be a certain frame out. So there's a lot that really has to go into that. So I would plan on like late summer, early fall.
It could even, look, we're doing a 50th birthday party in the winter, and hopefully it'll go very well. Maybe it'll
be hard to get an indoor venue. That's hard. That's expensive.
Well, the Atwood donated it, I think.
Yeah, but Woodstock would not fit in the Atwood. I mean,
Just my point is we can reimagine, and I'm not. There are a lot of practical things, and my only push is that we preserve the possibility. I agree, and do that through budget. And I think Grant, your point to Terry about seeing if they can come back with a number to plug in there is a good one. And we can. When's the events committee meeting about this?
Friday at Harmony at 6:30.
Great.
So we can do a little bit of work on that. Any board member could bring a amendment, a proposal at our December meeting or and ahead of that to consider that. And I will just say we absolutely have the authority at any point during the year to approve additional. I totally understand your point of sort of signifying it in there if the events committee isn't ready with a proposal, but wants to work on one and comes in February and says, here's our plan. We want to do an event in October. It costs this much. The board can approve at that time, update the budget, and we're good to go. So I think we have both options available.
Want to hear from folks here?
Yes.
Well, let's at least read the chats.
Steve would like to speak to Woodstock, as would Maggie.
Why don't I think
Yeah, so sorry, like I wrote, I was the artistic director of the Madison World Music Festival for its entire 17 years and have been really itching to restart it. And I'm still on the list of presenters all over the country. It's harder to bring artists now to this country, as you might imagine, but people are still coming. So I might be able to offer my services either as a volunteer or for a very reasonable amount. Of course, that means that everything else will still need to be done by others. Writing contracts, contracting the stage, and so on and so forth. But I think it's entirely possible to create a committee that will create an amazing art festival. So just for you to think, I'm not expecting that to be decided at this point.
Great. And I see, comment from Maggie saying let the, committee work on this and get staff input. I think I'd like to suggest that we keep moving on with our budget, and we will definitely be having further discussions around this in committee.
Yes, I would like to just offer, yes, I coordinated the WORT block party and the stage at Willie Street Fair for 7 years. So if people have questions about the revenue generation and success of that scale of event, or some of the work involved in volunteer, how that work might be reimagined as a volunteer. I also work on Orton Park Festival as one of the music bookers for that. So I'd be happy to offer any kind of input into that. I'm not sure I have time to join a committee, but I would be happy to come to a meeting if so desired.
Thank you. And Adrian made a note that she took over the events committee and looking for anybody that's interested to join that. So I think we can also work to get more information out, make sure that all volunteers are aware of the rebooting of that committee. And sounds like there's a lot of exciting planning to happen there. Great. 2 other updates in this exec committee proposed, relatively minor. One is the volunteer, one is line 93, the dues and subscriptions. So we received the positive news that our music rights will be covered. I think it's for next year and I think for the next several years.
December of 27.
Right. So that's part of the kind of the new organization that's stepped in. They've got that sorted out. So we reduced the expenses in that line by 4,600, which is what we had been holding for that. So that comes down. And then 108 is really just moving the line item. This was it was listed under our personnel recruitment, but it was really related to volunteer recruitment, and so personnel is really non-volunteer expenses. So just moved that up to the volunteer expense line, and then eliminated it from the personnel section. And then the other difference from this one from our October closed session discussion is in the form of the October closed session had the personnel expenses other at 62,400, and in the executive committee proposed those were kind of reallocated in the salaries and benefit categories. So this was money that was earmarked for management support in the finance committee budget. So those are the differences that are in the column H executive committee proposed. And that shows a total net income coming up from the 39,000 deficit that we were at when we left our October meeting. With these changes would bring it to a very marginal positive net income of 3671.
So basically a balanced budget.
That's a nonprofit. All right.
So
Yeah.
just a minor point of order. I shouldn't zero out the recruitment because yes, that number historically was mostly volunteer recruitment, but there are costs associated with personnel recruitment that will probably be on the budget for in the next.
Yeah, that's a good point. At a minimum for the development director. Right.
Yeah, I hadn't seen any for the previous positions for that amount, but
there were like 2 costs in the ledger from this year. I do think that they got slightly misfiled in this year's ledger, but I think it makes sense to kind of call it.
great. Can you send me details on them, and I can work on getting an update for our next meeting on that.
Maybe someone on one of those hiring committees could say what their costs were. I know they've gone up.
We spent about $500
Okay.
so far
On
on Indeed posts.
Right.
And I think there was another listing.
Right. We could also look at what it cost because that finished for the news director.
Yep.
Great. I'll make a note of that.
So I just have a more general comment and question, I guess, kind of, because I think we've had a little bit of a discussion about this before, but looking at the projected net assets tab you have, the PPE money really juiced us, right?
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about that. We talked about the CPB and the loss of that, but we took in hundreds of thousands through PPE that juiced our system. You get money, you spend money, your lifestyle changes, right? And that has also been a contributor to this scenario. And I just think it's really important, since we've had all this feedback and all this discussion, that that be just kind of mentioned, at least.
It's a really good point.
So, I mean, and granted, yeah, that's all I really have to say. So.
Feels good, Santa.
And that would be for anyone looking on their document. So on that projected net assets graph, that's that very significant jump you see starting in 2020 and then again in 2021. Phil?
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back about the elections timeline that was proposed in the elections committee report for the special election. It just completely didn't occur to me to mention it earlier.
Sure. Why don't we finish up our discussion on the budget and then come back to that?
That's fine.
So I think Terry's point, and I think it is important for future messaging to help people understand, like, how did we look so healthy for a while and then we weren't, is another thing that went away. It wasn't a cut like the CPB cut, is no more PPE money.
The pandemic went away.
Okay, the pandemic went away, which is a good thing, but the money that came with it also went away. And yeah, another reason why the growth of the staff that came with that wasn't sustainable.
So when everybody gets their $2,000, they should send a little bit to WORT.
Yeah, don't spend that 2,000 before you have that actual check.
Sorry.
Oh, God.
So go ahead, Tom.
Maggie was wondering if there was not.
Oh, right. Yes, I did see that. Thank you. So Maggie, and I don't know if you heard before. So we think that everyone who was on the previous hiring committee that for Susan's position has agreed to stay on, except for one board position, which Stu and I are gonna.
Person.
What's that?
And one other person.
One other person is. So the answer to Maggie's question is, will there be an opportunity for the development director? A hiring committee is possibly.
Possibly. We did have more people than were required. However,
Tell you what, when
we can be
you
open.
you're gonna send an email just to confirm with everybody, and then Tom, if you can get me into that listserv of the development
DRD.
director, DRD hiring committee. So then, and then I'll take it from there in terms of, do we need to recruit another volunteer or not? And so stay tuned on that, Maggie, and anybody else who's interested. And I know actually just there at least one other volunteer had approached me previously just by email about would there be an opportunity, and I said stay tuned.
So I'll open it up to any discussion on what we have here, but also just wanted to mention, again, we have a new treasurer. I did promise Tanya that I would be working very closely with her to finalize and to finish up this budget. It's not getting dumped on her, but definitely want to be working with her between now and our next month, where we really should push to finalize our budget at our December meeting.
No, we have to. Well, if we're responsible, yeah.
We definitely should. And so one thing that I had contemplated previously is, if anyone has essentially amendments, if there are items in what you're looking at now that you think, hey, I've got an idea, maybe it's adding wart stock in, maybe it's something else. I think Tanya and I can kind of talk offline and send something out, but would like to request those from any board members ahead of the meeting, especially if they need any kind of review or analysis to kind of get, good firm numbers, so that we're not just taking votes on stuff that kind of comes up last minute. So that I think will be part of the expected process for next year. Stu?
I don't have a position description. I don't have any of the details, but I do not believe that the full music function can be undertaken and overseen by a single person. I would urge us to seriously consider, at the very least, a 10-hour-a-week music assistant to assist Aaron.
Thank you. I know also, Molly's been working very closely, as I said, with all staff. I think Aaron in particular is, in a spot where he's being asked to cover a lot right now. I think there's still a lot of uncertainty about what all of those things are, what the best ways to manage it are. I know there's been a suggestion as well. I think Nate in his report mentioned really potentially pulling together a music volunteer sort of ad hoc work group to really get some input from the volunteers as well around what has worked well in the past. What do you think was missing? If we did, are there needs out there, et cetera? So I think that's something that I would like to see that get kind of kicked off relatively quickly also, and get some feedback to help inform, what are those outstanding needs? What do we think we're looking at? But
I guess what I'd say, and Tom as staff rep and Molly as board consultant, if you guys can talk to Aaron about, because I think Stu's point is well taken. Not that we can't make the change later in the year, but if there is you know what, if I could have 10-hour-a-week person or a 20, whatever, we may or may not agree to it, but getting Aaron's input back to us before the December meeting, and probably before the December Finance Committee meeting, ideally, would be great.
See some heads nodding over there. Any other questions or discussion on the 2026 budget?
I do see Heidi saying in the chat that she would like to be part of a music work group.
Great.
Cool. And I also see, I think it's Maggie, about budgeting for resources for the new development director, like networking and professional associations and conferences. What have we done with that in the past? Not just for that position. I can imagine some of the other positions may have we had, I'm just going to call it professional development. which isn't exactly what Maggie's saying, but just as a general description. Do we have a line for that at all?
We have travel and training.
Okay.
It's been a pretty small line item historically. We are over budget in that for this year. So there's some.
Where is it? Just so
it's
I can
yeah,
see it.
line 65, 64 and 65.
I see. Okay. Oh, it's very small.
Very small. So that is, I think it's a good point, particularly for that position. So that's something that could be considered.
Molly?
In past years, that was a budgeted expense, particularly for the NFCB conference, the National Federation of Community Broadcasters, which is the industry group for community radio stations around the country. So that staff used to go to that. It's changed over the years. Now there's a lot more online training. But
it would be good to get some, like what I see, if I'm reading this correctly, is that we budgeted in 2025 250, but we spent slightly over 1,000. And it would be good to get some detail on what that was, and do staff expect, like, is that a good number? For example, the little over 1,000 that was spent to date, it looks like, in 2025. I do supporting our staff to do their job well. I don't see, obviously, at that kind of number, nobody's abusing the privilege, but having something in there, and 350 isn't going to go very far, even though I know it's slightly higher than we budgeted last year. But for whatever reason, we spent a lot more on it.
And I will put in my plug as past treasurer, and on behalf of current treasurer, I would still really encourage us to think to really try and not have a deficit budget this year. So I mean, heard a couple of ideas. I think there's probably folks have other ideas of what we could spend money on. We'll all vote on those numbers at the end of the day, but I think I'm really going to encourage us to try and come in at a positive income or zero budget.
I hear you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, discussions on the budget?
Can I make someone from Stephanie? I'd like to make a quick comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Steph.
Thank you. So, sitting in on the board meeting for the first time in a long time, I really liked the suggestion that was made about revisiting, reviving an old concept of a state of the state station. Something, for listeners to hear and volunteers, picking a prime time spot, maybe doing it quarterly or annually, whatever. But, because I'm not I'm not an accountant. I'm not, going to be able to look. And I tried to look at the spreadsheets in the lead up to the listening session. This all isn't going to make sense to the majority of the listeners or the volunteers, right? And so I think that's great. I think that, I think you'll have less fear and less reactive responses to decisions that are made, and more, open support and involvement, because there's a lot of things that can be put out there, just brass tacks of like, this is what's happening, and really cluing everyone in, but also recruitment of the committees, so that it's not the board members sitting on 5 different committees, which is what I remember when I was a board member, that it was hard, even if we're putting out the board meeting is happening on this date, cart over the air. Sometimes it takes a little more. If you want involvement from the community, it takes more than just a public announcement. So, I'm really excited about that suggestion, and I hope it looks like Esty is mentioning in the chat that something might be worked out here in December, but keeping that as a part of just, I think that'll be an exciting thing, I think, to expose our listeners to, and then a way to really get people invested and take just that much more ownership in the station and the longevity of the station.
I think the question is, and I appreciate Esty saying that she's already working on it for, I assume, one of her public affair slots. And the question to my mind is that a one-off, or as a public affair host wants to do it, it happens, or does it become more of a regular, whether it's quarterly or whatever? And if it's going to be regular, is it necessarily on a public affair? I don't know the answers to that, but
yeah.
And I'm saying this out loud because we have Nate here, our news director, and Julia's on the programming committee. It sounds worthy of a discussion at the programming committee, which I don't think in any way prevents Esty from moving forward with doing something like this once, but if we're going to do it on a more regular basis, kind of building it into the program, that way we can also be more like it can literally be on the program schedule,
right.
every third Thursday of the quarter or whatever, of the third month, of whatever. We have a state of the station thing, but I think it's rightly in the program committee, because then it's what happens.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for the input, Steph. And yeah, I think communications will definitely be an ongoing and important future discussion for us on the board. And it's something that I'll be putting a lot of effort into as well. Any other questions or discussions on the budget? As I mentioned, we do have one closed session item that we'll need to go into that I sent out earlier. But otherwise, I think more info to come on kind of process for anybody that wants to consider amendments to what we're looking at here, and then we will deal with that at the December meeting. Being none, I would look for a motion to go into closed session for consideration of matters related to employment, promotion, and compensation.
I'll also move.
I'll second.
Okay, hang on just 1 second.
But we needed to cover election.
Oh, yes, that's right. I'm sorry. Before we do that, Phil, you had something that you wanted to cover, elections related, from the elections committee report.
Yeah, just very briefly, the timeline that was proposed. I can pull it up if anyone doesn't have it in front of them. I should be able to pull it up.
It's linked in the
agenda. I haven't.
Go ahead, Phil, whenever.
Yeah, so we had a vacancy announced on October 13th. We activated the elections committee during our October board meeting on October 22nd. Message was sent out via announce on November 5th that we are having a special election. I believe it was November 11th, we released the list of eligible voters, and earlier tonight, we updated that list and are in the process of finalizing it. Currently, the deadline to apply for the board vacancy is November 30th. Those have already either occurred or have been announced. And I think the proposal that the elections committee has discussed and outlined was posting the submitted candidate applications on December 1st and opening voting. holding voting open for 14 days. And so it would then close on December 15th. On December 16th, we would announce election results via Vol Announce and on our website. And on December 17th, swear in the new board member at the December board meeting.
We actually swear in members?
I don't think I got sworn.
Speaks
There was
of-
probably some.
We welcome
I don't know. Definitely swearing since then.
Yeah, I think swearing in is sort of,
Welcome.
yeah, I don't believe there's any vow that anyone takes.
Okay.
That strikes me as expedited. What is the time period for the normal election at the annual meeting? How long is the voting period open for that?
30 days.
There's
no. There's nothing.
Okay, but that's an election that people who are participating over a course of time understand is happening. To have only 2 weeks for a special election in December strikes me as unduly expedited.
I don't disagree, but at the same time, given all of the feedback we've received and everything, I think not seating somebody that wants to be on the board right now is more of an issue to me. You know, and so moving up the timeline a little bit to get somebody that wants to be on the board now might be worth the exception.
Also interject, 30 days, I think, stem back to a time when it was all paper ballots.
Right.
Everything's electronic now.
Okay.
And most people, like, you're either going to respond to an email pretty close to when you get it, or you're not going to respond. If you wait 30 days, it's been buried in your emails.
Okay.
Well, and we'll get an email when voting opens.
That's what I mean.
Yes, you're all
That's what I mean.
yes, I give up. I'll make my point. Well, so
no,
do it in 2 weeks.
I actually have more concern in a different way. Will, if someone is literally told on the 16th that they've been elected, will they actually, just timing wise, be able to show up on the 17th? They may not be. And if they're not able,
if they're not paying attention to when the next board meeting is, why are they running for it?
I understand, but it's one thing, pay attention. It's another thing, but you don't know when you put your name in the hat. Maybe there's 5 people running, you know.
And maybe they'll join via Zoom, or maybe they'll be able to join at the next one.
I understand. I'm not saying that we shouldn't stick with this timeline. I want us to, I would be sympathetic to someone's saying, oh,
hey, that's really fast.
I'll see you in January.
Yeah.
I mean, I was elected on an annual meeting I couldn't attend. Now, why people chose to elect me anyway, I don't know, but they did. I just couldn't be there.
And yeah, that, and I don't, I mean, if anybody has got, yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
So sounds like there's agreement around this proposed timeline.
Do we need a formal motion on this?
I don't believe we do, but if there are any objections, I'd like to hear them.
Sure.
And then can we assume that the elections committee will share this information out as appropriate?
Yep.
Great. Stu?
As a general rule, you can't be doing business after a closed session. So E should not be there to begin with. And certainly if we go into closed session under 8D, we cannot even contemplate approving a budget. But what under the open meetings law, you can't do business after the close. You know that.
Well, I don't think that's true. I believe that it has to be clearly stated on the agenda that you are going to take business after, which it is, but we can verify that. I think
it's bad form regardless.
I've been in many closed sessions on city meetings that we have then gone back into open session and done additional business.
We're also 8E before we vote on D to go into closed session.
Well, again, I guess I can just check right now. My understanding is that there's not interest in considering approval of the budget at this meeting anyway. Is that correct?
I would agree, given the number of things we've talked about,
Agreed.
at least possible changes.
So I would say E is not going to happen in any case.
Okay.
The other thing I would also just make very clear, in light of actually comments that were made by listeners, while we may or may not want to comply with the spirit of the open meetings law, under no circumstances are we compelled to follow it. And I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't be open and transparent, but applies to governmental state, Wisconsin state.
No argument there, Jay.
Okay, you said it, and so I want to make sure we have members of the public here that nobody is under the impression.
But our intentions are to meet it or beat it.
I don't know that we've had that discussion. We're a nonprofit, and it's just not the same. I chair a governmental entity, and I'm well aware of the differences.
So might be a topic for future discussion, just getting some clarification agreements around that. All right, any other discussion in open session on the budget? Otherwise, we will, I'll recognize your motion, Jeff, previously to go into closed session. Is there a second? Seconded by Stu. Let's do a roll call vote on this. Tanya?
Aye.
Carlos? Stu? Tom? Terry?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Phil?
Yes.
Shannon?
Aye.
And Julia?
Aye.
And that covers us all, correct? And I vote aye as well.
Should we take a couple minutes and
motion passes. Thank you all members of the public for attending. We're going to go into closed session at this time.
We have
One question. Could someone just repeat who made that motion?
I did.
Jeff
Jeff Spitzer.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have to excuse Tom?
Yeah, this is on the
Stopping the poll.